Iran Daily Briefing. Monday, April 20th, 2026. The United States has seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship near the Strait of Hormuz, and the diplomatic fallout has now put a second round of nuclear talks in serious doubt. Iran's foreign ministry says it has no plans to send negotiators to the next session. Washington says its team is heading to Pakistan anyway. How we got here, what it means for the ceasefire timeline, and what both sides are saying. Coming up. As we've covered in recent episodes, the US-Iran confrontation has unfolded on two parallel tracks: military pressure in the Gulf and fragile diplomacy rooted through Pakistan. Today, those two tracks have collided. The US seizure of the Iranian-flagged vessel Tuska has become the immediate flashpoint, drawing reaction from Beijing, stranding tankers from third-party nations, and giving Tehran a stated reason to walk away from the next round of talks. At the same time, Trump is claiming Iran has agreed to a significant concession on the Strait of Hormuz, a claim Tehran has not confirmed. In today's episode, the Tuska seizure and the diplomatic rupture it triggered, the executions of two men Iran says were Mossad agents, the human and economic cost of the strait restrictions, and what to watch in the next 48 hours as a ceasefire deadline approaches. The ship is called the Tuska. It's an Iranian-flagged container vessel, and on Saturday, US Central Command published video it says shows a guided missile destroyer firing on the ship's engine room near the Strait of Hormuz, after which US forces seized it. President Trump announced the seizure in a post on social media. That action has now become the defining event of the weekend, and it has directly complicated the diplomacy both sides were publicly describing as ongoing. Here is where the accounts diverge sharply. Washington's position: Trump has stated that the United States is blockading the Strait of Hormuz. He has also claimed that Iran has agreed to never close the strait again. The US has not provided further detail on that assertion, and Iran has not confirmed it. Tehran's position: Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson stated on Monday that there are no plans for a second round of negotiations with the US. Iran's Tasnim news agency reported on Sunday that Tehran would not send a negotiating delegation to Pakistan as long as a naval blockade remained in place. A senior Iranian politician, Ebrahim Azizi, told the BBC that Tehran will never cede control of the strait, and that Iran, in his words, will decide the right of passage through it. So, on one side, a US president declaring a blockade and claiming a major Iranian concession. On the other, Iranian officials explicitly rejecting that concession and conditioning any diplomacy on an end to the blockade. Both cannot simultaneously describe the same situation. The diplomatic architecture is also worth noting. As we covered in recent episodes, Pakistan has been serving as an intermediary. Pakistan's military chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, traveled to Tehran last Wednesday for a 3-day trip. Iranian leaders told him, according to Al Monitor, that he carried US proposals for a second round of peace talks. The first round, in Islamabad on April 11th, ended without agreement. Then on Sunday, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif spoke directly with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian about the situation in the Gulf. Sharif acknowledged both Tehran's high-level delegation to Islamabad and the Munir visit. Despite all of that diplomatic activity, Iran's public posture as of Monday is no second round. Trump, for his part, announced on Truth Social that US negotiators would be in Pakistan on Monday, April the 21st, to resume talks. Whether Iranian counterparts will be there remains, as of this briefing, unconfirmed. One additional data point on the diplomatic temperature. Brent crude oil prices rose more than 7%, according to Al Jazeera, amid the conflicting accounts from Washington and Tehran on ceasefire negotiations. Markets are pricing in the uncertainty. Iran's President Pezeshkian did offer a note of restraint on Monday. According to state news agency IRNA, he said that every rational and diplomatic path should be used to reduce tensions with the US. That statement sits in tension with his own foreign ministry's position that no second round of talks is planned, and that tension itself is worth watching. The specific thing to watch: whether Iranian negotiators actually appear in Islamabad. Trump says US negotiators are there. Tehran says it has no plans to send anyone. If no Iranian delegation materializes, that will be the clearest signal yet that the diplomatic track has stalled. The tankers. Third-party costs. The Strait restrictions are not only affecting Iranian and American vessels. Indonesia's state-owned oil and gas company Pertamina confirmed this week that two of its tankers, the Pertamina Pride and the Gamsunoro, remain stranded in the Persian Gulf amid ongoing restrictions on passage through the strait. Indonesia's Pertamina confirmed two of its tankers remain stranded, illustrating the cost of strait restrictions to third-party nations. There is some movement in the traffic data. Shipping analytics firm Kpler reports that more than 20 vessels passed the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday, April 19th, the highest number of crossings since March 1st. France 24 also reports that Iran has partially reopened the strait, allowing passage only under strict authorization and designated routes. That partial reopening may explain Saturday's crossing numbers, but stranded vessels like Pertamina's tankers suggest the restrictions remain consequential for commercial operators. Watch for whether Pertamina or other state energy companies formally request diplomatic intervention, which would add new pressure on governments beyond Washington and Tehran to weigh in on strait access. The executions. On Monday, April the 21st, Iran executed two men, Mohammad Masoum Shahi, 38, and Hamed Validi, 45. They were hanged at the central prison of Karaj outside Tehran, according to Al Monitor. Iranian authorities stated the men were convicted of cooperating with Israel's Mossad intelligence service and planning attacks inside Iran. The judiciary's news outlet Mizan reported the charges as collaborating with Mossad and planning attacks. The National Council of Resistance of Iran, the political wing of the MEK, the opposition group also known as the People's Mujahideen, confirmed that both men were MEK members. The MEK is banned in Iran. Two sets of charges then: espionage for Israel and membership in a banned opposition organization. The Iranian government presented both. Watch for any formal response from the MEK or the NCRI, and whether human rights organizations issue documentation of the cases, which could affect Iran's standing in ongoing diplomatic discussions in Europe. The Internet shutdown. One data point that has received less attention than the military and diplomatic developments. Iran's Internet shutdown. As of April 5th, the most recent data available, Iran's Internet shutdown had lasted more than 50 days, per NetBlocks cited by Al Monitor. That figure is now more than 2 weeks old. The actual duration as of today is longer. NetBlocks described it as the longest nationwide shutdown on record. Mehran Kamrava, director of the Iranian Studies Unit at the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies, identified 3 key levers the Iranian government relies on in this crisis: sanctions, the nuclear program, and control over the Strait of Hormuz. The Internet shutdown sits alongside those, a domestic control measure during a period of external pressure. Watch for any updated NetBlocks data on the shutdown duration and whether the reopening or continued closure becomes a point raised in diplomatic contacts. China weighs in. At a regular press briefing. On Monday, April 20th, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Guo Jiakun expressed concern over what he called the forced interception by the US of an Iranian-flagged cargo ship. The statement puts Beijing on record opposing the seizure, adding a major power's voice to the criticism of US naval action in the Gulf. Watch for whether China's statement translates into any formal diplomatic move or whether it remains a statement of position without follow-through. In the cold open, we noted Trump's claim that Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again, and flagged that it connects to larger questions about where the diplomacy actually stands. Here is the fuller picture. Trump made that claim publicly. The US has not provided further detail on that assertion, and Iran has not confirmed it. In fact, Iranian officials said the opposite on the same day. Foreign Ministry spokesperson confirmed no second round of talks is planned, and senior politician Ibrahim Azizi said Iran will decide who passes through the strait. The ceasefire between the US and Iran, which two sources, France 24 and NPR, reported was in place, was set to expire on Wednesday. As of this briefing, no extension or replacement agreement has been publicly announced by either side. That is where things stand. A US claim of Iranian agreement, Iranian officials publicly contradicting it, a ceasefire deadline 2 days out, and a second round of talks whose attendance remains unconfirmed. 3 things to watch in the next 24 to 48 hours. 1. Islamabad. Trump announced US negotiators would be in Pakistan on Monday, April 21st, for a second round of talks. Iran's foreign ministry said as of Monday it has no plans to send anyone. Whether Iranian negotiators appear or whether the US team arrives to an empty table will be the most significant indicator of where this diplomacy is headed. 2. The ceasefire deadline. The ceasefire between the US and Iran was reported to expire on Wednesday. That is 48 hours from now. Watch for any official announcement of an extension, a replacement framework, or, if neither comes, an escalation in military posture from either side. 3. Iranian Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf. Ghalibaf issued a statement warning global oil market participants against relying on what he called vibe trading digital oil, urging focus on physical oil transactions. The statement signals concern about oil market stability from inside the Iranian government. Watch for follow-on commentary from Iranian energy officials or any formal policy move tied to that framing. Today's episode covered the US seizure of the Iranian-flagged vessel Tuska and the diplomatic rupture it triggered, Iran's execution of 2 men on charges of spying for Israel, the ongoing cost of strait restrictions to third-party nations including Indonesia, and the approaching ceasefire deadline with no confirmed second round of talks in place. Join us tomorrow for the next briefing. If you found today's briefing valuable, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes every morning.